Top 10 Wildest Reasons People Tried to Kill a U.S. President. The answers may not be as political as you think. Not everyone has a statement to make or a human they want dead. Sometimes, the wrong people get a weapon in their hands and the right opportunity. Although only 4 U.S. presidents have been assassinated, there have been attempts on dozens of their lives. Here are some of the weirdest reasons these criminals have given in their own defenses. Number 10. To get back at the FBI. Sara Jane Moore. At first glance, Sara Jane Moore seems like any other single mother, working hard to support her children. Look a bit closer, though, and you'll find a secretive and dynamic woman, so secretive, in fact, that she worked as an FBI informant. Suddenly, the FBI cut off all communication with the 45-year-old woman. Paranoid, Moore immediately jumped to the conclusion that the FBI was planning to kill her. In a 1982 interview, 7 years after Moore missed shooting Gerald Ford by a few inches, she claimed she thought she was going to go down anyway. She figured, if the government was going to kill me, I was going to make some kind of statement. Number 9. He was trying to break through the alien mist. Francisco Martin Duran. One of many attempts on the life of Bill Clinton was by Francisco Martin Duran, who opened fire on the White House lawn at a group of men, which, luckily, did not include Clinton. Though no one was harmed, the trial was elevated by Duran's defense. Maybe too insane. Prosecutors claimed he was faking insanity in order to get a lighter sentence. Duran's previous anti-Clinton statements were brought up by witnesses, and he was eventually found guilty and in his right mind. He was sentenced to 40 years in prison and is not eligible for parole. Number 8. He hated Catholics. Richard Paul Pavlick. There are a lot of reasons to be against a politician, but religion usually isn't one of the common ones. Not so for Richard Paul Pavlick, who tried to kill John F. Kennedy in 1960. Like many people who attempted to kill the president, Pavlick thought he was keeping the United States safe from controlling ideologies foreign to the American way of life. Unlike other assassins, Pavlick didn't believe this ideology was communism or fascism. Instead, it was Catholicism. That's right. The religion that now comprises almost 19% of the U.S. population was one so controversial as to drive a man to murder. Even odder, Pavlick grew up in South Boston, one of the most Catholic areas in the country. Number 7. To make marijuana legal. Oscar Ramiro Ortega-Hernandez. Though it only took place a few years ago, Oscar Ramiro Ortega-Hernandez's attempt on President Barack Obama's life probably doesn't ring a bell for many readers. This shooting was so low-key it's barely considered an assassination attempt. As a matter of fact, it took the Secret Service 4 whole days to realize that bullets had hit the White House at all. Ortega-Hernandez was able to land 7 bullets on the second floor, but luckily no one was hit. Even if he had been able to aim for someone, it would haven't been Obama. He was not at the White House at the time. Number 6. To save the trees. Lynette, Squeaky, Fromme. Lynette, Squeaky, Fromme took the meaning, tree hugger, to a whole new level. Squeaky is more famous for her connection to the infamous Manson family than she is for her ill-fated attempt on President Gerald Ford's life in 1975, but the two are inherently related. When asked her motive, Squeaky responded that she was trying to bring attention to the environmental pollution Ford's government was bringing to America, particularly on the California redwoods, which she claimed were going to fall down soon. This is in line with ATWA, a belief system held by Manson himself, which claims that the environment holds the balance of the earth. Number 5. He wanted a job. Charles Guiteau. We all handle unemployment differently. Charles Guiteau handled it by using all his spare time plotting to kill the president, James Garfield. Despite having absolutely no political experience, Guiteau spent much of his free time, of which he had a lot, remember, no job, campaigning for whichever politician he was rooting for at the time. In 1880, his interest peaked in the Stalwart Party, resulting in his penning a speech in favor of Ulysses S. Grant called Grant Against Hancock. When James Garfield ended up winning the Republican nomination, Guiteau literally just switched the name Grant for Garfield and read the speech out loud a few times to passers-by. For this labor, Guiteau felt he deserved part of the credit when Garfield became president. After deciding he wanted to be ambassador to France, Guiteau was able to speak to the Secretary of State, who promptly told him it wasn't happening. Number 4. To impress a girl. John Hinckley Jr. Not just any girl, but blockbuster movie star Jodie Foster. After seeing her in the movie Taxi Driver, John Hinckley Jr. became obsessed with the 12-year-old actress. After 6 years of stalking her, Hinckley became fed up with being a nobody and resolved to take drastic measures to change this. Hinckley's case is an interesting one because it has absolutely no political background. Hinckley didn't care who he killed as long as it was someone important enough to get him on the news, where he could profess his love for Foster. This is so true that a few years prior to his 1981 attempt on President Ronald Reagan's life, he was actually planning on killing Jimmy Carter, the president before him. It made no difference to him. Number 3. He wanted to be king. Richard Lawrence. Andrew Jackson was sometimes called King Andrew, as a jab at his power in the U.S. meant to invoke feelings of hatred against the monarchy Americans had fought against 50 years earlier. Richard Lawrence, however, didn't have any negative connotations with the title. A humble house painter, Lawrence believed himself to be the rightful king of England. Furthermore, he thought that King Andrew Jackson was the only man standing in the way of the throne he was owed. Never mind the fact that they were both born in America. Lawrence tried to shoot the former president on the steps of the U.S. Capitol, but his gun misfired. Before any officials could apprehend him, 67-year-old Jackson lifted his cane and started to violently beat Lawrence with it. Number 2. He had a stomachache. Giuseppe Zangara. Giuseppe Zangara was a poor immigrant and a poor shot. He shot 8 rounds from his gun, aiming for President-elect Franklin D. Roosevelt, and ended up hitting 5 people, none of them FDR. Why did he feel the need to hurt one of the most beloved U.S. politicians of all time? Well, it really boils down to this: Giuseppe's stomach hurt. Number 1. A ghost told him to. John Schrank. Many people know the story of the time Teddy Roosevelt was shot in the chest in the middle of a speech, and continued to finish the speech. Not as many know the story behind why Bavarian immigrant John Schrank shot him in the first place. Maybe that's because it's a little, well, silly. Schrank claimed he tried to kill him because he had a dream where the ghost of former President William McKinley pointed to Roosevelt and told Schrank that Roosevelt had killed him and that Schrank needed to avenge his death.